Right, what are we doing today? What are we reacting to? Let me take a look. Oh, Frieren! Holy shit! I hecking love Frieren. Especially love the part where she said it's Frieren time and proceeded to Frieren all over the place. Alright, what's going on, everybody? My name is Terminus, and yeah, I was in the mood for Frieren, so we're gonna do Frieren today. Episode 25 of Frieren, to be precise, since we've already seen 24. I actually opened 23 in the background here. I don't know what I'm on, but it's clearly not my standard medication, so let's fix this. Let's get it started. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy my videos. Leave a like, subscribe, and all that jazz. Check out the Discord, check out the Patreon. Maybe there's something in there for you. But without any further ado, we're just gonna head right into it. And look at the last episode. Talk about a little bit about the things that we haven't talked about yet. Now, obviously, I'm probably repeating myself here and there a little bit. That's always what's gonna happen. It's not, right? This is not gonna change in any significant way, because it's just human nature to repeat yourself a little bit, because these are points that are already in there in the brain. But I do love to look at these things, because oftentimes you do notice things that you haven't looked at before, that you haven't actually addressed before. And we do have a big challenge, right? How do you beat yourself? And Frieren isn't confident she can do that, because she is at the standstill going up against herself. Although I would say that with that many talented mages, the question is not if you can actually beat this replica. The question is what unforeseen circumstances can actually happen in that regard. We do have a lot of things that can be problematic here while we try and attempt to fight Frieren. That is, first of all, other replicas coming to her aid, which is a real problem. Now, imagine you're fighting as a group and you're fighting Frieren, and suddenly Sense and Fan show up, and Denken maybe. Like, that's gonna be insane, right? And we know, aside from maybe the Laufen replica, most of the replicas are still in play, and we don't know how many the demon can actually create. So we're kind of left in the dark here. Like Frieren said last time, we lack the information to actually make a proper judgment on that. There's also other things that come to mind, right? Because the Frieren we see here, much like the 𝐸𝐏 we saw in the last episode, these replicas don't talk. So there is a difference between them in science, in like psychology. If you did a study and you compared the replica Frieren with the actual Frieren, you would already have kind of an unequal samples, right? Because you'd have the problem that the Frieren replica is not one-to-one what Frieren is. It's maybe as close as you can get to that, but you still have that minor error of, and that's a big one, the big component. The person or the individual in question does not talk, which changes the feel. I mean, in the case of Frieren, it might be a little bit less impactful, but take 𝐸𝐏 for example. We had that last time. The 𝐸𝐏 replica didn't talk, and that was a big thing, because 𝐸𝐏 seems to be a yapper kind of. And we have the same thing in other areas, right? If you are able to influence people with words, especially in the modern age, we see that more and more. Your words matter, right? Your words change things that happen around you. Words have a lot of power in the world, and even just if it's even just to distract you, to provoke you, to divulge things that you yourself that change your behavior on a certain level. And that is a component that isn't in here, but since these replicas might not have a mind on their own, as hypothesized by 𝐸𝐏, as well as Frieren herself being like, we should assume that's the case, we get into the situation that we cannot use our words in any way whatsoever to influence this this replica. We can also not use hypnosis magic and charm or restraint magic, because apparently Frieren is very resistant to them, which cool to know. Actually, that's a good to know thing for the future. I'm sure it's gonna come up at some point down the line in the later arc where we're like, oh yeah, but Frieren said this. She's right. She's resistant to this stuff. Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's true what you call him 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐿 said, that you actually have to know yourself well in order to beat yourself, and or have to be very good at working together with other people. And in this case, you also reveal a little bit of your vulnerabilities, right? Because you are forced to look at yourself and be like, what are my weaknesses? What could be things that could be exploited? First of all, it improves you as a mage in general, or as a person in general, to look at this and be like, this could be my weak points, and you have that in the back of your mind now, and you can actually go back to it and be like, okay, maybe this is something I can work on in the long term. And second of all, it also shows that sometimes you just have to there's a saying, right? It takes two to tangle oftentimes, right? So if you are in a relationship with someone, be that in any kind, right? All the way from being an associate or business partner to being friends or lovers or whatever, but you have to trust the person to a certain degree, and in order to trust them or to establish mutual trust, there has to be some kind of openness going on between the people that are involved in that relationship. And that is what we are starting to see here, right? The person that is mirrored here, the replica, is a very powerful being, and we do have to find a way to deal with it. And to do that, you need to kind of reveal lay some cards on the table, something Frieren is interestingly enough not used to. I talked about it in the comments with, or rather Vincent answered to episode 23, when I actually put, was it 23 or 22? I think it's 23, where I actually put down the idea that, hey, actually you do have to kind of sometimes sorry, my mind is empty, let me reset. Sometimes that just happens. It's not only you, people, it's not only you, that happens to everyone. Yeah, we talked about the fact that Frieren isn't used to revealing much of herself. Be that in the conversation she had with 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐿 in episode 22, it was 22, where it was about how do you, in general, how do you make sure people remember you, right? People keep you in mind, and he's like, to change their life to a degree. We do call back to Flamme and Frieren's philosophy that she adopted from her master Flamme, that you ultimately should not have a high profile, right? Keep a low profile, fly under the radar, not reveal anything of yourself that can be exploited in any kind of confrontation that you have. And now she has to make that pivot, because she does supposedly or apparently have this desire to become a mentor to Fan, to start to the people around her, even Lavigne and Kanne to a degree, in some kind of short capacity, to just enjoy that time of being together with people and having a fun time, enjoying each other's company, but also passing on the knowledge and the skills and all of the lessons you've learned along the way. So maybe the people that you're teaching that to, they don't repeat the mistakes you have made, and they have an easier time getting through life, being more competent along the way, right? Learning those skills to actually make it in the world, and fulfill whatever it will be that they end up desiring, what kind of goal they set for themselves. And that kind of brings us to the thematic of Fan that she shortly discussed with Sensei, when Sensei asked about Fan's motivation, and said like she's very dispassionate, or doesn't have that determination inside of her, and me actually commenting on that, being like, she's still young, right? She maybe one day she's gonna find it, and when she follows Frieren, and Frieren's trying to make sure that that's the case, no matter if she stays with Frieren or if they split ways for various time periods or various snippets of time, she's gonna have the skills to actually fulfill her own goals and desires that she might develop at some point. And I think that's a great thing on a developmental level. But let's actually continue. We're going past the intro. A cool intro as always, and we do have a little bit of exposition. Again, I hold fast on the fact that this is actually, that looks like Sven. So very curious, is that 𝐏𝐢𝐏, is that not 𝐏𝐢𝐏, or is that just a generic, like, this is a mage and they just chose a fan-like image for that? I don't think so. A lot of things have meaning in this story, and I don't think they would be blind to that they created a depiction of a mage here that is looks very much like Fan. We do highlight the differences and the similarities between the 𝐈𝐦𝐩𝐷 and 𝐿𝐷. Wonder if we're ever gonna meet 𝐿𝐷. We talked about the animation before. It's beautiful. I also saw like some of the animation. We're gonna look at Sakugaboro maybe at the analysis of Frieren in general. Looking at some really cool animation pieces for that, or if something's coming up. I do love how they wind and change trajectory, and they kind of curve, right? Really cool. Like, there's something about flowing motion that is very, very satisfying to look at. And from the beginning on, I did love that normal magic, negative space kind of thing going on, and it's really cool. The hard thing is also here, Frieren is a very, very bad matchup for most of these sorcerers, or most of these mages, because they focused and specialized on having physical attack magic, because this is the modern era of spell casting and fighting, where they become so efficient because that they are not using the traditional standard attack and defense magic again anymore, at least not that often, and don't perfect it because it consumes too much mana. So in that aspect, they are not trained enough, right? They're not focused enough on that, and haven't spent enough time learning that and becoming one with that. And Frieren, on the opposite hand of that, did exactly that for not just a normal human lifespan, but for thousands of years. So there's this huge gap and this huge difference that is gonna soak up all of their energy and power and whatnot. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. And they're ducking and weaving, and there she just stands, blank, staring. I've noticed the facial expressions are actually not being matched most of the time. We had the same with 𝐸𝐷. 𝐸𝐷's clone didn't have matching facial expressions, in my opinion, or at least from what I've seen. Yeah, we always had this like very expressionless kind of thing. So that is another difference possibly between the person and their replica. Because for Frieren there's also not as much of a matching facial expression. Interesting that 𝐸𝐷 quickly figured out that this was a clone as well. Maybe even already in town, where she was like, oh yeah, I know, right? Because she asked the question in town before, where she was like, oh, you're not using your clone? But that might have been a leading question for her to just kind of prod at it. I don't think maybe that's the case. But she's reading him well, right? And she's starting to understand him, because she is using a little bit emotional blackmail, but in the end, right, she uses her knowledge about him. You could say she trusts him in a way, right? He says, I know you don't want to be responsible for my death, and we gotta get out of this somehow, right? At least I have to, and you by extension of that maybe have to as well. You care enough about me as a person in general, not as my personality specifically maybe, but as a person in general, and you've gotten to know me, so at this point you don't want to be responsible for my death. I'm leaving you the flask, and I'm putting you in a position where I'm like, where I'm gonna be like, in danger of dying if you don't do anything. And I assume he was probably close by. I don't think he was off way somewhere else. I think he was just maybe sending his clone ahead with 𝐸𝐽, since he probably can sense all of his clone's senses. By the way, that must be really difficult if you have multiple ones, to just have all of these senses at the same time and kind of regulate that. If we're stepping out of the magic realm for a second and we're putting this onto real life, we do see that the frontal lobe will be heavily involved, right? We do have a lot of executive functions going on here. How do we split our attention? We can't split our attention, by the way, that's a myth, but how do we direct our attention? How long can we attend to something before checking in on something else? How do we rotate information in our short-term memory? What decisions do we make? There's a lot of decision making going on here, and to make these decisions on where to put my attention at any given time, if double or triple of the information that a normal human being takes in is actually being taken in by Land, which I assume it is, the way he talks with people, the way he interacts with them, and the way he actually knows that his clone is about to die and that she's going to do what she's going to do. So that's got to be, you got to be smart for that. You got to be really capable in specifically that area of attention. I know a lot of people who have like attention deficit disorder or similar things, but it's going to be very difficult for those as well, because there's a lot of attention pulling going on. You have a little bit like, or I mean, with time you learn that, and adults are really adapted to that, to the point that you can't diagnose it almost at all in an adult. If you haven't been diagnosed as a kid but you had it, it's very hard to actually realize you do have it as an adult, because you do adapt strategies to compensate for all of that attention pulling. You learn how to control it better through effort, obviously, through the fact that you realize you're not that good at it, and you adapting to that to a degree. But yeah, it's very interesting to get back. I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but we're going to talk about it. You can't really split your attention. That is a thing. I think a lot of people do assume that splitting attention is a thing, that you can pay attention to two things at the same time. It's very, very limited, if not impossible. What you do if you are concentrating on multiple things at the same time, and this is a thing we have to do in our everyday life. If you're driving a car, you have to do it. If you're interacting with people, if you're doing any job, right, you have to do these things. But what you do is technically just making the switches very often, right? You do the thing that needs your almost undivided attention, and the other thing that you're also paying attention to that has to happen along the lines, you regularly just check in on that with the attention. We like to visualize it. We like to, in psychology, we like to use a spotlight, right? And split attention would be two spotlights. We don't have two spotlights, we only have one, so you can make the spotlight a little bit wider, right? Visually, right, on other modalities and whatnot, you can make the spotlight narrower to focus on one of them. What you also can do is just switch, right? Spotlight here, spotlight there, right? Obviously, the more is going on at one single modality, the harder it is. Humans are very visually focused, so visual attention is one of the most important things. Then we have audio, right? Audio attention. We do have tactile, right? What do we feel? Right? What do we touch and whatnot? The sense of touch. And then we have a couple of other things related to our position, the position of our bodies, and motor functions and whatnot. But yeah, obviously we can pay attention to a degree to these things, but a lot of them are automated. And if we actually have to pay attention and take in information, it's very hard or almost impossible to actually literally pay attention to two things at the same time. We have to switch back and forth, and some people are better at that, others are worse at that. Generally, humans are not good at all at that. At least that's the current state of research, kind of leans in that direction. But yeah, let's get back to the show. Actually, I do love this this point of view, right? First person point of view is really cool, and we move in and we yeah, we have that strike, counter strike, whatever, and we do have them mirrored. I do love dodge, right? They do the same things. They're doing a very good job at the same time making them clash, which means they have to be asymmetrical to a degree, but also keeping them as symmetrical as possible in this fight, which is a really cool thing to do. Let me see, because I do think there's actually been, yeah, this one, first person point of view, amazing. I do love it, right? You see where her point of view is going, and they actually make sure it's almost all of that there, but they actually make sure to never animate her full frame. Something of her frame, in this case earlier her feet, and in other cases way more, is always missing. So what you have to do is actually stay close to your opponent in order to avoid being in your field of view, in the field of view of your opponent completely, right? And this is when she goes in for the strike. But the problem that we have here, that starts is she strikes her back and she falls back, but that is actually an advantage for her. She's in the air and she's a little bit ways back, and what we do see here, don't mind the armpit shot, I do love the zoom in, the fish islands kind of effect, and then we go in and we see the reflection of her in the eyes, and suddenly all of her is in the frame, and that is when 𝐸𝐴 triggers. Could do without that. I don't think that's the thing on the screen that's a necessary effect, but I guess they wanted to build up the suspense a little bit for that, and here we do have it, right? But really cool, and obviously he's gonna copy the flask. He is meticulous, if nothing else, and she says thank you, and he wants to spend a little bit more time with him, which makes sense on so many levels. We do have actually a fucking minimap. I can't believe it. Yeah, little ways. Like I said, this is like, looks like Elden Ring for me, but could be other games for other people. And we meet up and we confront the big bad. Frieren just smiling, being like, yeah, this is gonna be good. As I said in the beginning, I think the problem is not defeating. The problem is somebody gonna die or have to pull out? Because that's the thing that we're talking about here. The reason they're not going in is not, right? I mean, first of all, they think they can probably not defeat Frieren, even if they're all together, which insane, but kind of makes sense to me. But what the problem is here is if somebody goes in who has a good chance of defeating her, even then, it would take so much effort that some of them might make mistakes, and if they make mistakes and the replica Frieren sees them as enemies, obviously, Frieren wouldn't hesitate. That means one of them could actually die by a one shot, which is an insane thing, but it's possible. And yeah, that's about it for the pre-discussion. I don't think I have anything more to say to that. Oh, holy shit. I just thought I wasn't recording. I just got a giant joke. No. There are two versions of this video. Pip in the description down below. Check that out if you want to. If not, we'll see each other in just a second in the edited reaction. Right, I'm back. I got a sandwich. Right, let me just, I'm gonna show it to you. There you go. Nice sandwich. What's on it? Cucumber, mustard, cheddar cheese, some Oh, I don't know how it's called in English. Let me see. Rucola. Arugula. It's called arugula. Interesting. Some arugula and camembert. Camembert, if you want to be French about it. Yes, that was my terrible French accent. Anyway, I got something to eat. I'm ready for Frieren 25. Let me see how that turns out, and yeah, it's gonna be really, really nice. Actually, I was gonna record Main and Biz today, but I might do later. But at the moment, I was just like, come on, I'm in the mood for Frieren, so let's fucking do Frieren. Frieren episode 25 starts in a 3, a 2, a 1.
現状情報が少ないからね。
We do.
それでしたら、もしかしたら私、フリーレン様を殺せるかもしれません。そう。はい。
Mama's proud. Ooh, Serie. Flashback, huh?
じゃあ、作戦を立てようか。
Very interesting. What does Serie have to do with this? Maybe she taught Frieren for a while too. Oh yeah, played. There's so many strategies that you can come up with. I mean, I know that Serie and Flum were kinda... Especially you see young Flum and possibly Serie. And the first class mages. Those two standing there. I wonder if Kanne and Lavina are gonna make it to the bottom. We didn't see a lot in the last couple of episodes, but we saw that they're still in the game, so... Kind of spoils it a little bit, right? When you know what's happening. Frieren and Fan v Frieren. It's interesting because as a person you can maybe also detect vulnerabilities, but also maybe how strong you really are, what your potential is. Ooh, somebody is here. Oh, that's Dünste. Oh, is Sensor coming in here? And we do know that healing magic is more the realm of the goddess. Oh, did he die? So he might have. Wow, that is some self-sacrifice. Holy shit. I mean, he was hurt. Yeah, okay. I mean, he could have dropped the flask. I wonder if they knew each other beforehand. Okay. Denken's like, you all didn't want to work together. Oh, you do have one. Okay. Cool, cool. I like Methode. Her design is so cool. So they're basically an AI. Yeah, but the lack of information is often part of... Yeah, they don't know. We know as the audience, but they don't. Yeah, that is the question. Do we get out of this unharmed or not? Ooh, loving history buff.
一番上の兄貴が大陸魔
Ooh, who explored the dungeon?
法攻略の先見隊の
That is cool, and it's cool that they actually made it down.
方法を持っていたわけか。通りでここまで来れたわけだ。それならば初めから俺たちと情報を共有して協力するべき。
Yeah, what was your reason?
できるような雰囲気じゃなかったからな。フリーレンたちは気がついたら先に行っちゃっていたしね。
Okay, so they wanted to go with Frieren, but...
なければ容赦なく仲間を見捨てるタイプだろ。安易に協力できるか。
Oh, there's some tension. I mean, he tried to kill them.
謝った方がいいんじゃない？悪かったな、おっさん。
Holy shit, backhanded. Backhanded apology.
シュピーゲルはあの扉の向こう側、宝物庫の内部にいて。
The Spiegel, so it's a type.
手段を持たない税
Oh, that was the thing we saw. I thought it was maybe an activation of it.
を倒せば
That's its form.
本体は扉の向こうをされている。
それは私も確認している。私の複製体の仕業だね。命がけで宝物庫の扉を
And of course, Frieren replica would know such spells.
中でトップクラスの封印魔法だよ。あの扉は術者が死ぬまで開くことはない。
So Frieren needs to die.
どちらにせよ、シュピーゲルを叩くには、あの複製体は倒さねばならんと。
Ah, that's gonna be fun.
倒すなら急いだ方がいいぜ。
Is the time limit coming up? Oh, yeah, and we don't know how many. I talked about this.
時間とともに最深部に集まってくる。
Makes sense, right? Because everybody makes it further down.
前回の先見隊は兄貴の部隊を除いてほとんどが壊滅した。最深部目前の
We also don't know if the replicas are being kept and they're wandering around, or if we're just encountering replicas of what parties we have right here.
あの
So this is like a big point of contention.
気を精密に模倣しているんですよね。なら行動パターンによる弱点は本人と同じなんでしょう。
Oh, Fan, you're gonna use the Frieren being a slacker
それなら
threat?
その弱点って何なの？フリーレン様、あっちの壁際に立ってもらってもいいですか？
Don't say she's short, because that would be stupid.
まさか、なんということだ。
気がつきましたか？なんかわかった？わからん。
なぜ戦っている時に気がつかなかったんだ。
Oh, so Duncan spotted it.
いや、手だれという先入観があったからこそ気づけなかった。
Oh, something that she doesn't share with experienced mages.
瞬間にほんの一瞬だけ魔力探知が途切れている。
それって見習い魔法使いがよくするミスじゃ。昔から苦手なんだよね。なんで言ってくれなかったんですか？だって恥ずかしい。
Of course it is.
言っている場合ですか？
I mean, she would have revealed it eventually.
技量があまりにも卓越しすぎている。実際にこの隙をつける魔法使いなどほとんどいないだろう。
作戦会議をしますよ。
Alright, let's strategize and not talk to the audience because we need to be surprised by it. But look at them coming together, all working. Wonder what Sensor thinks about that.
フリーレン様、なんだか楽しそうですね。
Kind of like being with a party, right? Ooh, dragon. Oh. Okay. This is where it all gets into play, right? And I do love the music. The music! Good excuse, Hyder. Good excuse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Holy shit. They're planning the raid. Shout out to any MMO players out there.
攻略を開始しようか。
勝てるのか。
大丈夫。 攻略できないダンジョンなんか存在しない。
Yeah, true that.
私は歴史上で最も多くのダンジョンを攻略したパーティーの魔法使いだよ。
Alright.
本当にフリーレンの複製体と戦うのはお前たち二人だけで大丈夫なのか？
I mean, if it's same.
方が相手の行動を予測しやすいからね。
Yeah, because otherwise it fights a lot of people.
ほぼ確実に勝てるだろうけど、大半が死ぬことになると思う。
And that is the main concern.
ないよ。
それよりも最新部に集まってくる複製体の足止めの方
Hold the line, holy shit. Okay. We're gonna Mass Effect 2 this one.
挟み撃ちにされたら私たちは全滅だからね。
Yeah, that's the one factor.
作戦通りに。
And the problem is, if Fan and Frieren go in there, then they're one person short, so they need to make sure they're actually getting rid of them faster. Alright, let's fucking go. Oh, Lavina and Kana going with them? Or is that... Are they keeping the... No, they're keeping the door. Okay. I was gonna say that. They're gonna die, but yeah.
さてこのメンバーの中で苦手な相手を言い合おう。
Yeah, alright. We do some additional strategizing. Cool. Time for the matchup of the century. Nah, look, Fan's super powerful. Her reaction time is gonna be decisive here. Alright, let's go. They're not even shooting. What are these? Holy fuck, what are these effects? Oh, we're breaking space-time over here. Again with the symmetry, I love it. They're playing chicken. Yeah, because she knows. Only roughly. Respect. Oh yeah, because Fern is really good at that, right? Especially for human, but... Yeah, because Frieren's very good at defending against it. Okay. I think we didn't know that. So she needs to react on reflex, and she's not as fast as Fen as far as reflexes go. Yeah, and then Frieren can go in again. At a very early age. And she trained her for that. Even if she doesn't kill her, it will create an opening for the other Frieren. And that is the thing. Oh, but is it gonna... Oh, come on. Stop blueballing me.
生の遺言状を届けに来た。
So Flam is dead.
あれから50年。そうか。フランメは死んだのか。
悲しくないの？
気まぐれで育てた弟子だ。
Yeah, also I guess she's used to it at this point. She isn't like Frieren. Doesn't have that.
何が書いてあったの？
皇帝が国を挙げた魔法の研究に認可を下ろしたそうだ。人間の文化圏では今まで魔法は魔族の技術であるとして表だった研究は
Yeah, alright. We do have that stigma, right?
かけたのはフランメで彼女は新設された宮廷魔法使いとやらの教育に
Establishing a force against the demons by using their own stuff against them.
引き継いでほしいという内容だ。なんて贅沢なやつだ。魔法の研究の認可が下りただけでも快挙だというのに大陸最大の統一帝国が魔法の研究と軍事転用を始めるということだ。
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fighting.
わずか数十年で魔法は大陸中に普及する。人類の誰もが魔法を使える時代がやってくるんだ。
Yeah, volatile, right?
人類が魔王軍に抗う力を手に入れることを意味する。
そう、すごいことだね。とても。
まったくだ。
And she isn't all that excited about it.
だが、それは私の望むところではない。
Ooh, interesting. And here we have it.
こんな遺言は到底聞き入れられん。実に不愉快だ。
So what happened? Frieren convinced her?
を使える時代だと。魔法は特別であるべきだ。
Oh, holy shit, that philosophy.
教えるつもりはない。
She's gatekeeping.
こんなものをよこすとは。フランメとは最後まで分かり合えなかった。
先生はゼーリエは怒って遺言状を破り捨てるだろうって。
She read you like a book.
それでも伝えておきたかったんだって。夢が叶ったよって。じゃあ私は行くね。
Stick it to her a bit.
会うこともないと思う。
フリーレン。その前に少し歩かないか。どうせ私たちには時間はいくらでもあるんだ。
So what are we gonna share here?
魔法を使える時代はフランメの夢だった。あの子もきっと初めは人類のためとかそんなものはどうでもよかったんだ。
Oh, and there's their memory of Flum running past.
あの子のお気に入りの魔法を知っているか。花畑を出す魔法。
Yeah, we do remember that.
にも立たないくだらない魔法だ。
Yeah, for you maybe, because you can't see it, right?
あの子は本当に魔法が好きだったんだ。
Magic for magic's sake.
そんな魔法を使えるようになってほしいと本気で願っていた。虫図が走ったよ。
Why?
まるで。でも実際にそうだったんだよ。
Why did it enrage you so much?
私よりもずっと背の小さな小娘だった頃に語った夢物語だ。正直私はそんな時代はずっと先のことで、あの子には実現不可能なことだと思っていた。
Because the mere fact that you're so against it
無にも等しいような短い人生で
tells me that this has to be something that's kind of triggering you, that's kind of pushing your buttons.
判断がとても早かった。まるで何かにせかされているみたいに。
Maybe being used to being with an elf.
私たちよりも死に近い場所にいるんだ。重大な決断をしなければならない時がいくつもあるが、あの子たちはそれを先送りにはできないんだ。
Despite the fact that in reality, over here,
もう200年後にやってもいい。
we live longer than a lot of other beings.
私たちの時間は永遠に近いのだから。
Closer, but not an eternity.
人間がおよそ文明と呼べるものを築き上げてから長い年月が経った。これから先は時代が加速するぞ。
Does she fear it? She just want the power for herself?
たった1000年で人間の時代がやってくる。
Or is it just her era ending, right? That makes her not want this.
人間に追い抜かれる。
Is that a us versus them mentality?
鍛錬を怠るなよ。フリーレン。お前を殺す者がいるとすれば、それは魔王か。人間の魔法使いだ。
What's so bad about that?
楽しみだね、ゼーリエ。
Exactly.
これから先、たくさんの魔法使いと
Yeah, embrace it.
魔法が見られるんだね。
Embrace the variety, right? You know what can come of this? People eager to learn, people eager to experiment, because they don't have as much time as maybe an elf. And we do have this giant flashback before we see what's happening. Holy shit. And you might have dodged it though, I think. Oh! Come the fuck on! Yeah, I'm not gonna watch the next one. I'm just gonna have to... Holy... That was rude. No, even this beautiful, beautiful song will not sway me. That was a nasty cliffhanger. I do really love songs that mix English words into the Japanese language, or other way around. Not the other way around, it's kind of hit or miss, but... Alright, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. We're gonna put that back on 0. And I'm gonna be seeing you, hopefully, back on YouTube or back in a second in the discussion. Alrighty then, let's talk about this. We do start out with a little bit of a strategy meeting. Very cool that we work together, and we do have that short flashback where she's like thinking back on that when she sees Fan, right? And that is kind of her main thing, that she's like smiling back on that, being like, I was right? Her being on the side of humans, being like, that's fantastic that all these people are studying the magic and looking at it and working for it and developing new things. And she's so gleeful. I love it. It's amazing to see her just every warm smile by Frieren makes me happy. Especially if we consider how the series started. And we do have 𝐸𝐷 arriving and being like, Bly sacrificed himself so I can make it out, and I do have the information that 𝐸𝐷 gave us. Bro stood valiantly. I do hope he got out. He could have died. We'll see about that. She does have a holy scripture, interestingly enough, and she can cast normal healing spells. So either she has somewhat of a talent for it, right? The blessing of the goddess, whatever. Not maybe as, not even close to what Sign has, but maybe to a degree. But she decided to study magic instead of being like doing the goddess's magic. To study humanity's magic. And she's healing him. Very nice. Again, I do love her design. It's cool looking, it's fitting, it's sexy. It checks all the boxes. It's really cool. Instead of just sitting there being like, yeah, interesting what you're planning over there. I ain't gonna help you. You do you. Yeah, and we do have that imitation of the mind precisely. And we look at the vulnerabilities and everything. Lavina actually made it down here. I mean, she did have previous information, as Richter points out, but I do think it's still impressive that she actually made it through there. It's very impressive in my opinion, and it shows that there's more to Lavina and 𝐸𝐿 and their skills than we might suspect. Because first of all, let's be honest, aside from their specific magic that they're able to wield, 𝐸𝐿 is with water, and obviously there's very little water going on here. I mean, obviously there could be like a chamber or two where there's actually water flowing, and maybe 𝐸𝐿 can load up on that. And Lavina can freeze existing water, but she can't, or at least she is not as good at creating matter out of nothing. We had 𝐸𝐷 say that in the last episode, that creating something out of nothing needs a lot of mana, needs a lot of whatever. And so it's very draining, and mages don't want to use it, especially not against one another, but also not just when they're encountering difficulties and whatnot. But I would assume that in a world such as this, where magic is also acquired by finding spell scrolls and learning from other people, that they've picked up some interesting spells. And I'm thinking of D&D here, where we do have a wizard spell list that has all kinds of things like minor illusion or I don't know, any kind of cantrip that you can think of, and the little things, right? The things that every mage picks up at some point, find familiar, whatever. And you can kind of make your way through challenges that are not solely combat oriented. And as we go into the combat territory, we can actually assume that all of these mages, which have done the 3rd or 2nd class mage exam, are capable of, at the very least, casting basic attack magic and basic defense magic, even if it drains their mana more. So if it comes, like, if worst comes to worst, we would be in a situation where 𝐸𝐸𝐻 and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 would be able to actually cast normal attack magic against the gargoyles if no water is available, right? If there's no water to freeze or to use against the gargoyles. We shouldn't, there's no reason for us to assume that's not the case, especially if we see Denken as an Imperial Mage, and he surely probably has his specialities, but Denken definitely can cast light magic, wind magic, fire magic, all of these. Yeah, and obviously maybe they've already went up against a Mira 𝐸𝐸𝐻 or a Mira 𝐏𝐚𝐻. Proves maybe that they know themselves a little bit, and that they can actually work together to defeat one of them, each of them. Maybe even both. We don't know, right? I don't know how it was in manga. Maybe there was more meat to the entire thing, and we saw more about that, or maybe we didn't. All possible. Either way, we do have probably a bunch of people. We saw specifically later on, we saw the replica of Methode, but we have probably even more people. We haven't encountered Denken's duel. We know that the duels of Wirbel and Schaf and Wirbel, Schaf and 𝐸𝐻𝐿 have actually been defeated, which is amazing. It means that there's less people coming in, and it also means that since they haven't arrived here yet, it means that if when we're defending against these clones, that at some point we might be really in a rough situation, what we just being able to barely hold on, and then we can have that moment of Wirbel and 𝐸𝐻𝐿 and Schaf actually coming in, being like, gotcha, right? We got your back. And then this is the victory moment for this group of people. Now, I don't know if the current Frieren is defeated. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, we'll divulging this information. Apparently, her brother's group was one of the first to explore this dungeon. Richter's like, why haven't you shared that before? And we do have a little animosity going on, and obviously I can understand 𝐸𝐸𝐻 100%, right? You tried to kill her in the last test. You kind of threw mud back and forth. You kind of, right? There was a lot of like hostility going on, even if it was within the realms of the test. This is kind of a thing that can damage the first impression you do have of somebody, especially if they come at you with the intention to kill you, not just to knock you out. And that's what he did later on, Richter. But Richter seems to be very focused on them, which makes me think that to a degree he actually cares about them. Maybe he feels responsible because of the last test, but maybe also he won a little bit of respect for them. Now, obviously, him losing isn't entirely thanks to them, but also thanks to Frieren actually freeing 𝐏𝐚𝐻's skills. But then again, it's 𝐏𝐚𝐻's skills, right? And him having respect from the beginning, right? Keeping himself on the passive because he doesn't want any bodies of water to be close by. He wanted to make sure, but he got kind of clapped. And even though he might be more experienced, he might be stronger on a surface level as a mage, there is certainly almost something, I feel, brotherly or fatherly going on here that he feels on his end. He doesn't have animosity against them, but I can 100% understand 𝐸𝐸𝐻 being like that. I mean, like, what the fuck, dude? Like, leave me the fuck alone. Get off my back. You tried to kill me. Shut up. And he's like, oh, there's a lot of, like, it kind of stinks. It kind of stinks. Yeah, and then we have the information about the Spiegel, and it's beautiful design, by the way. I might even use that as a thumbnail. I don't know if I use it this time or if I use it next time, because next time we could actually encounter the chamber with the Spiegel and be able to kind of defeat it. Interestingly enough, this could have a lot of ramifications, right? If that test is passed and we actually make it through and we're gonna get first class, whatever, the side effect of that is gonna be we might have defeated the Spiegel and we might have actually unlocked all of these hidden chambers, all of these artifacts and murals and everything that was hidden up until now that we didn't have real access to in this King's Tomb. What also could be the case is that we realize this is actually not the deepest chamber, right? It looks like the deepest chamber, but we have like a level below that, or we discover something new that is within this dungeon that leads us on another or quest. Not Frieren, mind you. I don't think they're gonna follow that up, but maybe the Mage Association unlocks some new secrets and knowledge, and in addition to that, an understanding of how this demon, the Spiegel, works, and also how and maybe even new locations, right? Who doesn't know that, right? You get to the end of a dungeon in an RPG or whatever, and you find a map to the next dungeon, right? Or to a secret or whatever. And this is the cool stuff that I think 𝐸𝐧𝐬 was very functional in being like, okay, this is somewhat almost a perfect test for the subject, in my opinion, but also, if we actually make it down there, we have accomplished something that was beneficial to society as a whole, which is, interestingly enough, oftentimes what you do with your master's thesis, right? I mean, the bachelor's thesis not as strongly, but even in bachelor's thesis, a lot of universities use these bachelor's thesis, like the experiments being done, the results that come out of that. They use these studies as preliminary studies to get more of a feel for a certain point, like for a certain field of research or for a certain topic. And then they actually let the master's student do their master's thesis on a bigger, more complicated version of that topic. And then you do have obviously the general research area that's going on at that university, that the professors and the other people being employed by the university are following and might be connected to these master's theses. So we do have a functional relationship here in order to use the effort that's actually being brought forth by our students to advance our knowledge of certain topics and subjects and whatever. And I think I see that on a similar line, right? That we do have a test that might be the perfect test in our specific situation, but it's also very functional because we find out more for us, for society in general. But we do also know, interestingly enough, that somebody met the Spiegel directly, but because they said the monstrous weekend has no way of attacking directly. So that must be information that Lavina didn't just conclude, but that she has down for sure based on the experiences of her brother. Yeah, and we do have the door shut with powerful sealing spell, so we have to do this. In the meantime, a lot of people died, so we don't know how many, like I said, we don't know how many Spiegel replicas are down there. It could be that a lot of the replica, that this is a one-time thing and the Spiegel isn't controlling them in a way, but rather it's creating them. And yes, if the Spiegel dies, the creation dies as well, which still is, in my opinion, just a conclusion they came to, or a probability, a theory that they built. I don't think this is like a thing that we know for sure. Maybe it is, but I don't think it is. So it could be that they stay alive, but even, right, the Spiegel is still alive, and numerous parties died on their way down there, so we don't know how many replicas are actually down there, if they're still active or not. If this is a spell you need concentration for, if you go by the D&D metaphor again, or if this is a spell that's a one-time spell and then it's its own entity and it exists, right? Maybe you don't have necessary control over it, but it exists and it's actually gonna find its way towards enemies, which the only enemies currently present are our group here, then Wirbel's group, and maybe Tone if he didn't die or get himself out of there. And we do find out something about Frieren's weakness. Frieren is not infallible. She's actually not as good at detecting a mana surge the moment she's actually casting a spell, which is interesting that Denken actually notices that. I don't know how he notices it, but I guess there is some sign to see that there is that this is happening, that she's not sensing it directly. She's like, Asuka, it's embarrassing. Of course it's embarrassing for her. But she's like, I'm this super great mage, but this is like a thing I'm not very good at. Obviously it's embarrassing to reveal that, but Frieren, I do hope you would have revealed it sooner rather than later, because holy shit, this is the thing people need to know. I mean, to be fair, it could also be tactical. In the third test, they could be all going up against one another, and then they know, oh, this is her weakness. But this is not a time for pride, and this is also not a time to be thinking about that. We need to actually get past this test to get the next test going. The continued theme of Kanna and Lavina, holy shit. And Frieren being like, you see this shit? You see this shit? This is what I had to deal with. But yeah, she's having a lot of fun thinking back on how her party strategized for things, and we do have everything, right? We draw down a map, we do the strategy meeting, and they're gonna hold the line. This kind of reminds me of Mass Effect 2 at the end, right? The suicide mission. Really cool, really cool. Yeah. Oh, I do hope YouTube isn't gonna shadow ban me for actually using that word. I do hope that's the case. Oh, I'm getting like 50 views and I'm like, what the hell? So we open the doors and we step into the boss chamber, and the boss music starts to play. Again, great shot, right? Out of focus, background, beautiful background, out of focus, Frieren in focus. And this is like, holy fucking shit. What the fuck is going on right here? I actually had the audio on. I love that because it shows you kind of, in my opinion, that... Wait, give me a sec. And we start out here. That they are kind of playing a tactical game. They're not actually using magic immediately, because first they're looking for weaknesses in the reaction, right? You do have that first-person point of view where the different defensive barriers are being created depending on where you aim at, and you're just trying to feel each other out and see who flinches first, basically. I said later on in one of the other ones they're playing chicken, but they're playing chicken as well. So, and I do love that shot of the duality and whatnot. This wouldn't make for a good thumbnail, unfortunately, but yeah, we'll see that. And purple is a really great color for that, for like this explosion. We do have the keyframe, the negative keyframe, 1, 2, and it explodes into the purple, and it looks so great if you see it like in motion. And I'm gonna do normal speed. I hope I'm not gonna get claimed for that, but bam, right? It's so cool if you look at it in motion, because that's some weird ass shit. That's some like top tier animation. It's almost like plasma, I would say, right? Plasma is also use green oftentimes to kind of get the plasma color going, but purple works too. It's or like one of these I don't know how they're called anymore. The spheres where the electricity is kind of like the class spheres, where the electricity is going around the surface. You have some rocks flying, things being destroyed in the process. Fan making her way. Holy shit, you're like, fucking hell, you just killed me almost. But yeah. Obviously, they would predict one another's moves. There's a lot of energy flying around, but they themselves, they're fine right in the middle of it. There's so much going on, and we do have amazing animation. Maybe rotoscope, maybe not, maybe CGI. I don't know. I can't tell most of the time. Maybe you people can tell me in the comments when it's actually CG and when it's rotoscope. I just know this is a special kind of animation that's being used oftentimes, especially in first point of view kind of things, but also just if you want to display an amazing amount of animation and fluidity going on here. And we do have the lightning flashes, and yeah, there's so much going on here, and they stare each other down. And we do have the rocks kind of falling down. I don't know if one of them actually conjured that, or if that was just a natural thing happening, but as I said, chickening, right? Looking at each other, not even looking at the thing itself, waiting until the last possible moment to cast the spell. Why? Because it's easy. The one who casts the spell first is gonna have to extend that mana, and so you gain an advantage because you have spent less mana as the one who casts it second. Bam, or as the one who would cast it second, right? But you recognize that the other one cast it first, and so you don't have to cast it. You can save that mana. And here she can recognize that the replica stopped detecting mana. And fairness in your holy shit, that kind of mirrors the shot that we have in, I think, episode 9 of Fan, when she is just walking between the blasts and explosions when her and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 are fighting. That definitely mirrors the shot, and it's such a great shot, right? You have the main Frieren the main focus in frame, slightly to the side, and opposite of that, almost in a symmetrical way, but also not symmetrical because it's not the same shape. It's closer to the camera. You do have the duplicate walking towards her as all of this explosion shit is going on. We have everything in a red hue. Interestingly enough, the normal attack magic, right, the 𝐸𝐷𝐪 stuff, if you see it animated in its concept form, they actually animated with a blue, and not with a blue, with a red, with red particle beams. Really cool little detail. And we do have this again, the animation is insane. The heat coming off of that is being displayed here incredibly well, right? Hot air going up and distorting the picture of Frieren that you see here, changing her proportions a bit as the hot air passes by and goes into... Holy shit. I'm gushing so hard over this. Look at that, look at that. Boom, going in, lightning strike onto the red. Throwing it back. So much going on here, but it looks so amazing. One shot going in. Frieren having to... Oh, no, this is like the replica makes the shot going in as a response probably, and Frieren is slowly drifting off upwards with her momentum, and Frieren, look at this shit, that's like some Dragon Ball Z shit. Boom! I'm here, bitch! Right? Going into confrontational course, really straight up in your face. That's what she did with Denken as well in episode 21, I think it was, where she beat Denken. That's what she did, right? She went in for a point blank shotgun shot, basically blasting her away. And yeah, we have that torque. Are you sure you should use 𝐸𝐷𝐪 attack though? And as I predicted, it's Fan's ability to not think about the things she's doing, right? She's so inherent to 𝐸𝐷𝐪. She has it down squat, right? She reacts so fast to everything. Not only in her defense magic that she learned from very early on as well, but also in her attack magic that you can just fire them like it's natural for her. It's automated at this point. She doesn't even have to think a second. And this is when we go in, right? This is when we make our move. Do we have? No, we don't have it back on. Holy shit, that's the speed I don't want. We do have it back on. Yeah. And she goes in for the shot, and we don't know what happens, right? We have that little talk between 𝐸𝐷𝐪 and Frieren, and I don't really know what 𝐸𝐷𝐪 is thinking here. It's been 50 years, she says. Yeah, Flamme died at this point. She's not sad. She's not surprised. Not very emotional. Either she's not showing it, or she really doesn't care. She really doesn't empathize with people all that much. Is maybe that detached at this point. Yeah, and she brought magic to the people. Everyone can use it, and she says such greed. Why is it greed? I mean, yes, it's her dream. I wouldn't say it's a greedy dream in that sense. She wants to bring it to everyone, right? This is like saying, I want that everybody out there has the chance to gain the knowledge that they want to gain, right? Gain the skills they want to gain. Get educated. Everybody should have that chance, and somebody else being like, I don't want everyone to have access to education. I mean, obviously there's negative things to come out of this possibly, right? People are gonna start wars thinking they have the best attack magic going on. But they're gonna fight each other. They're gonna be real big, although at the moment the Demon King is still going on, so they have a common enemy to fight, so they won't be infighting as much as, at least not as much as they probably do at the current time that the main part of the story is playing. That is a negative side, but Serie doesn't highlight that in any way. That is not her empathy. That is not what she emphasizes, and I don't think this is what she means. The way she acts, the way she looks, the way she kind of her facial expressions, right? The way she expresses herself in words. This is not how I think she thinks. Oh no, people are gonna fight each other. No, she just thinks, right, magic is supposed to be something special. Something special. Not everybody should have it. It's like saying, hey, I don't know, whatever you wanna, right? Programming is something special. Not everybody should be able to do it. Kind of maybe because it's threatening the source of her own pride, right? The source of her own self-confidence, the source of what she accomplished in her life. It's undermining that, because the more these normal ass people are learning that, the less special she will feel about all the things she did and about all the things she accomplished. The more she will feel like she's being left behind by the times. And I think the same thing goes for like her little hint at low-key racism, right? Low-key racism in the way that she says, we're gonna be replaced by humans, all of us else, we're gonna be left behind, and it's gonna be the age of humans, and this is not what she wants. And this is coming out of fear, right? A lot of like racism, discrimination, things about that, right? If you have like immigrants coming in, you're like negatively, you have a negative viewpoint on that. It often comes from like legitimate concerns, of course, right? Concerns that might not be true, but they're plausible enough for us to make us fear the unknown, fear what could happen, right? Because we can't look into the future, we can't know what's gonna happen, and so we think they could take away our work, right? So I don't find work anymore, despite, right, being a native to this country and whatever. They could threaten our security, things could become unstable, and there could be a lot of criminality going on, right? About cultural clashes, right? I have to conform to norms or to cultural customs that I personally neither know nor really am approving of, right? I do have to live together with people in a society that might not have the same morals, the same understanding of the world that I have, and this is where the conflict comes in, this is where the contention comes in. Maybe she has some of that going on. Or maybe she just feels like the older she gets, the more she feels like people acquire the things she has spent her life acquiring, but she stopped at some point, or at least she got slower and slower at it, because there's less and less that she can acquire, right, in terms of knowledge and magical skill and capabilities and whatever. And she's at the point where she's like, people are getting closer and closer to me, but I'm not making any progress, because, right? And this can make you feel frustrated, insufficient in a lot of ways. So I do understand it to a degree, but at the same time it's very selfish to be like, I don't want people to do that. But Flamme read her like a book, knew that this is what she was gonna say, much like with Frieren in episode 4, when we saw Flamme being like, at one point you're gonna regret, right? You're gonna regret not getting to know people better. You're gonna regret that you didn't spend more time with this, thinking about this, and then you come back, please, I'll have something prepared for you, because she knew Frieren was a person who cared more about this, and she knew that difference, right, between Frieren and Serie, and she made that distinction, thinking about them. I do love this great this great way to give me a second. I like noises in the back and whatever. I gotta say, I do love this way that she describes, or that we visualize Flum thinking back to Seria thinking back to Flum here, right? Having those memory flashes. So we do know that Seria knew Flum from a very early age on. And this is what we here, right here. She's running past here. So much smaller than Seria. Yeah. And she's just, I guess she's smiling for a second, reminiscing back on that. So she does have these moments, and we know the flower field, but we didn't know that this was her favorite spell from the beginning on. But this is, like, in my opinion, a very innocent and beautiful wish, and the white flowers representing that innocence, maybe, in a way. She was like everybody. She did want everybody to be able to cast these spells. Look, what a bright and beautiful child. Pause. What a bright and beautiful girl she was, even from the beginning on. I mean, later on we do see part of that, right? It turns a little bit more into smirking, right? A little bit more into being very. It's very hard to explain that. Turns a little bit more in that confident smile, in that playful confidence that she shows when she first meets Frieren. A flashback that we see in episode 10. And I do think that she kept up this attitude, but obviously there's other things that got added along the lines, from her innocent self that we see over here to the Flum that we know that had a desire for revenge against the demons that her master Seria here did not have. So something must have happened, be that her husband died or her friends died or whatever happened, or something, right? She saw the suffering of humanity in general, got to know that to a degree. But for somebody as long-lived as Frieren and Seria, obviously, this doesn't necessarily have to mean something. It took 𝐏𝐤𝐏𝐿 and Frieren being, in my opinion, incredibly in love with 𝐏𝐤𝐿, whether she realized that from the beginning on or not, that is irrelevant. It took 𝐏𝐤𝐿, and to a minor degree 𝐼𝐦𝐩 and 𝐈𝐦𝐩, to actually open Frieren up to this attitude. But it was here from the beginning on, right? It was here from Flum on, because Flum was the first one to expose her to these mindsets, expose her to that attitude of caring about people in general, be that humans or be that others. And I think partially she continued this mission of her master Flum. She continued that mission to honor her, right? To honor her memory, but also because to a degree she already understood the emotions connected to it and the general attitude. She took that over from Flum, or maybe partially learned it from Flum. I don't want to say it's all Flum. It might have been there from the beginning on, right? Our personality plays a huge role in how we interact with our environment and how we get influenced by it. And we often seek the people. We were often trying to be close to the people that we feel very comfortable with when it comes to our own attitudes, our own world views and all of this. But yeah, there's a definite difference here, and Flum, in my opinion, is a lot more selfish on her own. I don't want to call her devious or evil. I don't think that's what she is, but I think she's a lot more selfish. And she doesn't understand Frieren, especially that little interaction here where she's like, I'm looking forward to being defeated by a human mage at one point, Seria. And we do have that here, right here. At least that's what is being implied. We don't know if the replica of Frieren is being destroyed for good here, but we do have that theme going on here of a human mage, a very talented one that learned from early on, that can look back look back on about a century of development and technological magical progress of like humanity's magic system that they copied from the demons but made their own in a way that can potentially defeat her. Even if it's with help at this point, it is kind of a foreshadowing of what's gonna happen down the line at someday, right? And even now, Fan is already this strong, and she only passed 18 years in her life. I don't know if Frieren was as strong as Fan is, comparatively, right, in percentage ranks of her entire lifespan when she was as young as Fan, when she was at that stage of her lifespan that Fan is right now with her human lifespan. If you understand what I'm meaning. But yeah. And we do have, again, amazing imagery. This show has amazing imagery. Frieren looking towards the light. Fan turning her back towards it. Right? Maybe Serie. Maybe Serie looking into the past. Holding too much onto the past to a degree. Trying to keep up that structure. Even in modern ages, we do see it right now with all we've learned during the magic arc. She bred mages that are very elitist to a degree, at least 𝐏𝐢𝐏, for example. That are very elitist, that are very focused on this should be something special, right? The first class mage in this case. This should be something extraordinary. They should be able to make the impossible possible. And maybe that is kind of a way for Serie to impose her will onto the creation that Flamme made, kind of to get back at her in a way, to get back to for that affront that she noticed here, that kind of hurt her pride and hurt her own notion of how the world is supposed to be. And now she comes back 50 years ago and she's like, I'm gonna impose my own order on this magic of humanity by founding this association and dangling that carrot of hidden knowledge that nobody knows, spells that are very special and unique that people have been spending ages or lifetimes searching for, dangling that carrot in front of them, giving it to them once they become first class mage in order to have that authority over people, being like, I'm the one who knows the most of all of you and you're gonna follow my hierarchical structure of an organization the way I want it to be. Maybe even just to slight not only Flamme but also Frieren in a way. And now Frieren comes back into picture, takes that exam, and Serie is being kind of egged on. She's amused at the same time but also annoyed, right? I do feel a lot of her smiles, of her devious smiles, are not just amusement and interest, it's also being annoyed. With that added context of this episode that we have, it's her being annoyed, her being kind of frustrated about maybe Frieren having her way to a degree, or her feeling threatened by Frieren, because Frieren has an attitude that's so different to hers and that is so opposed to what she believes things are supposed to be. Again, looking at two opposite sides. Frieren in the light, looking towards the light, looking towards the future. Serie turning her back towards it, rejecting it. But yeah, I think this is where I'm gonna end it. Terrible, terrible cliffhanger. Absolutely nasty, I gotta say. But I think this made for a really good discussion. It's a really, really good episode. I wouldn't expect anything else from Frieren. If you did enjoy this reaction, I hope it wasn't too long. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Leave me a like. It helps a lot. It shows that you people really care about the videos, that you appreciate what I'm doing, and it really motivates me to keep doing it. Because if there was nobody else listening to them, nobody watching my videos, I think I would have ended my my little YouTube career months ago. But the support I've gotten was really amazing so far, and I do appreciate every like, every subscribe, I do appreciate when you join the Discord and talk to me or to other people in the Discord. I do appreciate very much, of course, if you decide to support me on Patreon. You don't have to, right? At some point in time, hopefully, hopefully late this year, I'm gonna get the 1K subs, and hopefully then the ability to monetize my videos, which means I do have an income without you even having to do anything. Be that you watching ads or skipping over them. I mean, it hurts my bottom line, but it is what it is, right? I do the same thing for many videos because it's just so annoying sometimes. But yeah, be that watching ads or be that just being a YouTube, I think it's Plus or whatever it's called, YouTube Plus member, and that being recorded for me as a contribution, as monetary gain, or just being doing a membership thing for YouTube, which I can do, I think, starting at 500 subs. But yeah, that was Frieren episode 25. I'll be seeing you in the next video, hopefully this week, potentially next week, we'll see it. I do want to definitely get to the point where the last week, when we do see episode 28, I can actually watch it on Friday and get it out either Saturday or Sunday or something along those lines. At the very latest Monday, and we can watch it together. I do think for this one, I actually gonna make it public immediately, the episode 28. We're just gonna throw it out and be like, okay, here, this is the end of the series. Let's enjoy it together. Until then.